Who can make the sun rise, sprinkle it with dew? The Candyman can, oh the Candyman can. That song in this film, two wildly different tones.
This is where it all began. The story of Candyman. Local character, he walk around handing out candy to the neighborhood kids. One day, a couple of kids get razor blades in their candy. Police come around. That's when I saw the true face of fear.
Get on your knees. Hands! Hands! Hands!
They beat him, tortured him, killed him, right there on the spot.
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to my channel and time for another episode of Luke's Reviews. On today's video, we're going to be talking about, it's not really a reboot, nor is it a remake, it's more of just a continuation off of one of the coolest horror films released in the 90s. This is Candyman. We meet the character of Anthony, a promising artist who, along with his partner, is struggling to figure out what his next piece will be. That's when he discovers the urban myth of the Candyman, and how he terrorized residents of the now dilapidated projects. But the more Anthony delves into this history, the more Candyman re-emerges into the spotlight. Now, I'm sure most of you are at least aware of the legend of Candyman. You know the whole, you look in the mirror, you say his name 5 times, and he'll supposedly appear behind you and kill you. But it's one of those like old school scares that you would do with your mates and see who was brave enough to actually complete it. A bit like the whole Bloody Mary type trend. And going into this new incarnation of Candyman, I was very hopeful. You have Nia DaCosta directing, who I'm pretty unfamiliar with her works before this, but she is attached to direct the upcoming The Marvels for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the sequel to Captain Marvel. And look, Marvel don't just hire any old directors, they pick some pretty talented filmmakers. Plus, this version of Candyman is co-written and produced by Jordan Peele of Get Out and Us fame, so I went in with pretty high expectations. Plus, it was only about 1 or 2 days before seeing this that I actually sat and watched the original Candyman for the first time, and I was kind of blown away by that film. It starts off pretty slow, and then as soon as Tony Todd appears as the Candyman, that film kicks into such a high gear. I wasn't prepared for how hard that film would go, but damn, I'm glad it did. I thought it was brilliant. So, did the new Candyman live up to the hype? I'd say it did. One of the most striking observations I made about this film is Nia DaCosta's direction. The way in which she frames horror, specifically, there are 2 types of horror, which I'll touch on in a little bit, but the way in which she frames it is delightfully original. She keeps it so fresh and meaningful. You have the horror within the supernatural, as Candyman will appear and he'll be slicing people open and doing his usual shtick. But then there's also the horror as you kind of ground everything in reality and you draw parallels to what Candyman represents, the recontextualization that this film and the script kind of places upon the mythos of Candyman, how you kind of update that for today's modern day, the society that we live in, how everything has changed from the 90s, and ultimately a case of how history can repeat itself. You have horrors such as gentrification, continued racial divisions and tensions, police brutality, and at times it's very subtle, and I appreciate that, whilst at others it is very in your face and obvious, which again I didn't mind because it was still done with a level of talent. There's some brilliant shots of these towering skyscrapers that are just looming over the projects of Cabrini Green, and that begins to dawn on you of how gentrification has taken over this city. I think it's set in Chicago, and that speaks volumes to today. Furthermore, I don't think I've seen a filmmaker use mirrors quite as effectively as Nia DaCosta here. I am constantly looking whenever there is a mirror placed, I feel it's always deliberate. I'm looking to see if Candyman is lurking, to see what is different in the reflection. It's very, very clever direction. Now, as far as performances go, no one is really bad here. Yahya Abdul-Mateen II gives such a really intense performance as Anthony, as he is just descending down the rabbit hole of this Candyman legend. Teyonah Parris, who we saw earlier this year as Monica Rambeau in WandaVision, she crushes it here as well. I like that her character is given a lot more to do, as opposed to just being the partner who watches her boyfriend kind of go mad. She actually has a character that the film does explore. As for things that didn't quite work, I kind of have to talk about the ending. No spoilers, of course, but this film clocks in at a surprisingly short 91 minutes, and I feel like for the ending to be as impactful as I think it wanted it to be, we needed like 15-20 minutes more to prolong that tension just a little bit, to allow certain arcs to have full-on explanations as opposed to just expository dialogue being dumped in at the end. For like at least 70 minutes of the runtime, Nia DaCosta and her team are doing such a good job of prolonging this mystery and the intensity as Anthony is finding out more about Candyman and the toll that it's taking upon him. It does such a good job, in fact, that it keeps you on your toes the entire time. You are piecing this puzzle together the exact same time as the characters are. You never feel like you're steps ahead. But as we reach the ending, I feel like that's when some of it starts to come undone. The final 15 minutes or so are pretty rushed. It speeds through an explanation without really explaining all that much, tries to hit a really impactful note at the end, which I love the fact that it was going for it, but because we haven't had like a sufficient build up to that point, it left it feeling kind of flat. And it was a bit of a shame, because up until that point, this film was hitting pretty much every single beat spot on, and it's kind of disappointing that it would lose steam as we enter the home stretch. I also thought that the character played by Colman Domingo, who's a great actor, but again, he was misused. He is there purely to serve as exposition, to explain the legend and mythos of Candyman, not just to Anthony, but to the audience as well, because let's face it, not everyone who's going to see this film will have seen the 1992 original. But taking the sour taste of the ending out of my mouth, there is still an excellent horror film here. DaCosta comes out swinging for the fences as a filmmaker, and it turns out she's got a damn good batting average. The Candyman slasher components are as violent and disturbing as they should be, whereas the social context and underlying messages are equally as terrifying. So, overall, I'm going to give Candyman an 8 out of 10. Anyway, guys, those were my thoughts on Candyman. Let me know, have you had a chance to see the film yet? What did you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And my question to you, I want to know, are you brave enough to say Candyman 5 times in the mirror? Let me know if you've given it a go, or if you've made it to about 4, and then decided that you're going to stop there. But, as always, thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Hello, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure to click that like button, and if you aren't already, click that subscribe button too.